The Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew. Then the Pharisees went and plotted to entrap Jesus in what he said. So they sent their disciples to him along with the Herodians, saying, "Teacher, we know that you are sincere, and teach the way of God in accordance with truth, and show no deference to anyone, for you do not regard people with partiality. Tell us then what you think. Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not?" But Jesus, aware of their malice, said, "Why are you putting me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin used for the tax." And they brought him a denarius. Then he said to them, "Whose head is this, and whose title?" They answered, "The emperor's." Then he said to them, "Give therefore to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's." When they heard this, they were amazed, and they left him and went away. The Gospel of the Lord. Time travel, if you will, with me this morning. Just imagine we're in a bit of a OSLC sanctuary time travel bubble, and I'm your time traveling pilot, and you'll trust me to return you safely to this place a little later on. But time travel with me this morning. Time travel with me back to the 1980s. Not what you expected, I suppose. Imagine in your mind's eye a world populated by people walking around with leg warmers. And they're fidgeting with their cassette tapes, trying to pop them into their Walkman and clip them on their belts. If you're not familiar with this world that also, if you peek into the windows of family living rooms, has children playing feverishly on their original Nintendo Entertainment Systems, mashing the buttons on those little rectangular game pads. If it's unfamiliar to you, if you were too young to experience it, you can Google the 1980s, and VH1 or someone else will help you out. They'll give you pictures and video montages that mock my childhood. Just go and see. This was a different era. This was a time when Michael Jackson became the king of pop. It was a time when Mike Tyson became the heavyweight champion of the world. Most of the girls were wearing off-the-shoulder sweatshirts, and they were wearing jelly shoes on their feet. And the boys were wandering around hiking up their parachute pants and thinking to themselves, "Would I look good with a perm?" During this high point in Western civilization, this kind of cultural apex, I was a child in the backseat of my parents' two-door red Buick. I sat in the back seat between my brother and my sister, where all of us tried to keep ourselves from getting severe burns on our legs from the combination of vinyl seats and our short shorts. And I remember one particular day when my dad pulled that two-door red Buick over to the curbside by his workplace and went into his office to fetch something. And my mother wisely chose to accompany him rather than remaining in that crowded car with the kids. We were left alone, the three of us, in the car. And as a bonus, my dad left the keys in the ignition so that we could listen to the radio. What happened, what followed was predictable. There were 3 kids and 1 radio knob. As soon as my parents were out of sight, we dove over the seats, and the struggle ensued to see who could control the radio knob. And after a few minutes, my older sister prevailed, my brother and I surrendered. And a few seconds after that, my sister had the radio cranked and was leaning out the window and botching the words at the top of her lungs to David Lee Roth's cover of "I'm Just a Gigolo." I'm sure my parents were very, very proud. Together with the cantor, we sang this morning these words. Together we sang these words. "Oh, sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord all the earth. Oh, sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord all the earth." This Psalm 96 is one of 6 psalms in the Bible that give this same plea to the people of God to sing to the Lord a new song. We hear this call down through the generations, and from ancient times, people have picked up this call time and again and lifted up their voice and lifted up instruments and sung to the Lord a new song. This call comes down to the 1980s and all the way down to us in the present day. You, O people of God, are instructed. This word is for you. O sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord, all the earth. Sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord, all the earth. More than a decade after I lost control of the radio knob to my older sister, I found myself in college, and college was a place where I learned many new songs. Maybe that was just the result of leaving the control and confines of my parents' home and the small community I grew up in. But when I went to college, there were all kinds of new songs with new and strange people singing them. I learned all kinds of new stuff. One of the things that I remember early on after freshman orientation was I was getting to know Natalie, and we were friends back then. And she wanted me to listen to a new song, a new artist. I was a kind and tolerant kind of guy, so I said, sure. But as soon as she told me that the artist is this person named Ani DeFranco, and she has her own record label, and the record label is called Righteous Babe Records, and right there I thought, I don't know. Red flags, I don't know. But the song played, and I listened, and I'm sure she could observe as my face kind of hardened and my eyes narrowed. And then as the song came to a close, she looked at me expectantly with a look that seemed to ask, well, what do you think? What do you think? With a smirk of condescension, with a bit of defensive arrogance, I looked back at her and I said something like, I don't know, seems kind of angry. Natalie wisely noted my smugness and decided to let me come around to it in my own time. And come around to it I did. It took a couple years, but I found out over the course of those next couple years that I actually liked this Ani DeFranco. Little by little, her songs made their way into my heart and my mind, and soon enough I was a fan myself. So much so that 2 years after that initial experience, Natalie and I sat in a concert, an Ani DeFranco concert, where she performed live on stage, and with all the others gathered there, with all those gathered in that place, I sang out those formerly new songs of Ani DeFranco. I lift that up because I think for me, and I suspect for all of us, that this is kind of how it works over and over again in our lives with new songs. We may like the idea of openness or newness, but in the real, when we actually experience it, new songs are not our songs. They're foreign. They're strange. They come from outside of our comfort zone. It was certainly this way when I was a little kid and I first listened to the songs of Irish tenors that my grandpa loved. And it was this way when my parents played Dan Fogelberg on the 8-track. And it was this way when I came to this place and I first listened to this strange music that Pastor Larry's obsessed with called Western Swing. And all three of those I can name that in time, even though initially I would have judged them to be less than stellar, in time, each of those I found a soft place in my heart for, and I grew to love. I think there's something for us to stop and consider there. Why is it that new songs are so difficult in the initial for us to hear? What is it to sing a new song to the Lord? What is it to learn to sing a new song? In the Gospel of Matthew today, the Pharisees plot to entrap Jesus. What an interesting opening line. Scheming from the beginning of the reading. These Pharisees come to trap Jesus, and the place they do that is the temple in Jerusalem, this center of political and religious authority and power. They want to take Jesus down. They want him to go down in flames in spectacular fashion in front of the people. And they bring along these Herodians, these people who are in league with the Roman Empire. So there's this feeling of Roman imperial authority and power watching as well. And so they engineer this question designed to trap Jesus and designed to take him down. In front of all the people, they say to Jesus, Jesus, teacher, O sincere one, you who tell the truth always. Jesus, help us out. Answer our question. Is it lawful to pay the emperor's tax or not? What should we do, Jesus? This question for us at first may not seem that dangerous or even that clever, but in truth it is. And if we look at the context, we'll understand. Jesus talks about this denarius, this coin, and this coin was the coin required to pay the tax. Anybody who was going to pay the empire's tax had to use this denarius, the empire's coin. And on that coin was the face of the emperor, the Caesar, and an inscription that said, "This Caesar, this emperor is divine. This one is God. This one is Lord." So they're asking Jesus to perhaps acknowledge that coin and acknowledge its use, and in so doing say, "Caesar is Lord. The empire is God." And if Jesus says that, then who is he? An imposter and a fraud. And if Jesus goes in the other direction and says, "No, we're mindful of those Herodians, those agents of the empire close by," Jesus wouldn't have been the first to rebel against Rome and quickly be arrested and executed for it. Really, these Pharisees come to Jesus and they kind of say, "Pick your poison, Jesus. Pick your poison. Are you going to submit and just go out quietly or face the consequences with the Roman Empire?" Back to that notion of song, it's almost like they take control of the radio dial. They take control of that radio knob and say, "You've got two stations to choose from, Jesus. You want to side over here with us and settle down and just listen to Israel's golden oldies. Or maybe you can try this other station, this one that's kind of the top 40 hits of the Roman Empire. What'll it be, Jesus? Pick your poison." Jesus defies their expectations. Jesus does something that's unexpected and uncomfortable for them. And in a way, he simply sings that new song. He doesn't subscribe to the old songs that they would have him sing or listen or submit to. But he sings a new song to God. And what is that new song? Jesus says to them in the passage, "Give to the emperor that which is the emperor's, and don't forget to give to God what is God's." Jesus quickly helps them, and perhaps anybody else who's listening, understand that he's not going to play in a little sandbox. He's not going to fight with them. He's not going to submit the God of all the universe, the creator of heaven and earth, this little bickering match. God is so much bigger than these questions they bring. God is so much bigger than the confines of their tired old songs. In fact, Jesus seems to challenge them to say, perhaps God is present in empire. Aren't there blessings sometime that come through taxes? Aren't there good things that come through this yet? For us in our day, maybe that's a question to say, what about it? What of health care and Medicare and foster care that takes care of children without families? Aren't there ways in which God works in and through the state or the empire? But Jesus, of course, doesn't get held down in that understanding too long. He quickly expands our vision to say, and remember to give to God what is God's. And what a perfect thing today that there's a baptism to remind us that what Jesus is talking about is Rayleigh and you and me, our whole selves, that we belong to God. That new song where we sing, we are God's beloved children, claimed and named by God. That's really what Jesus means when he says, give to God what belongs to God. It means all of it, the whole of creation, God's presence in your life in and throughout all times and places. How do we begin to sing that new song? There's lots of mystery. There's lots of mind-blowing that can happen if we try to take Jesus and his word. I also want to simply go back and say the instruction to us is to sing a new song and to follow Jesus. And I think really the critical thing, the crucial point for us here is that to sing a new song, first we have to learn to listen for it. We have to let go of control of that radio knob, not go back to our old familiar tunes, and open ourselves up to new and unfamiliar sounds, songs that are not our songs, ways that are not our ways. How might that become a part of our practice in daily ways. Old songs really speak to us of comfort and control. New songs, not so much. And the new songs of our God in particular speak to us of God's blessings in unexpected places. God speaking in places that we didn't anticipate. Just like those Pharisees find out when they try to entrap Jesus at the temple. Well, for us, as we endeavor to sing a new song this day, I want you to focus that question perhaps and ask this: what is it in your life that you worry about? What is it that you are trying to control? Where are you tempted to seize control of that radio knob or to listen to your favorite golden oldie, your favorite old song? Where is that place that you're trying to control? Is it perhaps in your family? Are you trying to control your spouse or your children or your parents? Is it at your workplace? Are you trying to control coworkers or bosses? Is it perhaps in this place, this faith community that you care so deeply about? Are you trying to control things, to introduce familiar old songs in this place? And when you become aware of that, will you have the courage to follow Jesus and listen to a new song, to give up control of that radio knob? And when you hear those choirs of angels singing, when you begin to discern the voice of God singing in the world around you, will you join in with those churches on heaven, the church on earth, and the hosts of heaven, all these who gather around and praise God's name? Will you join in their unending hymn? We listen to these words each Sunday as we gather in communion. We listen to these words that tell us time and again that our God is the God of heaven and earth. Our God is the God whose song makes all things holy. Listen, O people of God. Sing to the Lord a new song. Sing to the Lord, all the earth. Amen.